Continuing from the last chapter, Xiao Yan was invited to the Yue family to treat their patriarch. When Xiao Yan presented little E, a middle-aged man was taken aback. Is that a fire spirit? The weak voice of the middle-aged man lying powerlessly on the bed rose a bit as he stared in astonishment at little E, who was beside Xiao Yan. At that moment, little E was hovering around Xiao Yan, making playful noises. Despite its small size, its power as a fire spirit allowed it to detect a heavily suppressed aura emanating from Yue Yu, who was just a short distance away in the room. This middle-aged man was none other than the head of the Yue family, a figure of terrifying strength. However, he now appeared frail, clearly suffering from some internal affliction. Indeed, it is a fire spirit, Xiao Yan confirmed, cautiously scanning the room. After ensuring that only Yue Yu, and himself were present, he continued. The rarity of a fire spirit made Xiao Yan wary of exposing it to too many people, as it could easily turn him into a target. Xiao Yan, this is my father, Yue said softly, gently supporting the middle-aged man on the bed. How's your health? Xiao Yan inquired as he and little E approached the bed. The man sitting there was pale, his vitality severely diminished, an air of decay clinging to his body, far beyond his years. In a past battle, I was struck by a treacherous foe's poisonous attack, Yue Yu explained, a touch of helplessness in his voice. In a desperate bid to escape, I recklessly channeled my power, which only drove the poison deeper into my heart. Over the years, I've sought countless remedies, but none have worked. Father, don't worry. With Xiao Yan's fire spirit, we'll surely find a way to heal you, Yue assured him, her voice trembling with emotion. For years, she had watched her once mighty father grow weaker, her heart aching with each passing day. Discovering an ancient text that mentioned the fire spirit's healing properties had rekindled her hope, and she was determined to try anything. My dear daughter, you've suffered so much, Yue said, managing a weak smile. He knew all too well his daughter's worries, but he was also painfully aware of the terrifying power of the poison that had plagued him for so long. Despite years of accumulated damage, Yue hadn't refused his daughter's request, not wanting to crush her hopes. Senior, I promised Miss Yue I would do my best to help you, Xiao Yan said, smiling at Yue. Though I can't guarantee success, it's worth a try. Let's give it a shot then, Yue agreed with a nod. Please, focus your energy and return to your peak state, Xiao Yan instructed mysteriously. A few minutes later, the room fell into an eerie silence as Yue sat up straight on the bed, fully concentrating. Everything was ready. All that was left was the final step. Senior, brace yourself. I'm about to begin, Xiao Yan said, his eyes closed in concentration. He and Little E moved closer. Go ahead, young man. My old bones are tougher than they look, Yue said with a chuckle, oddly impressed by Xiao Yan. With a roar, Xiao Yan activated the flame mantra, and waves of flame surged from Little E, enveloping Yue like a torrent of heat. Go! As the pure flames of the fire spirit encircled him, the poison that had long plagued Yue's body sensed the extreme threat. It began to resist fiercely, unleashing bursts of sinister energy in response. On! Yue's face contorted in pain as agonized screams tore from his throat. The poison had invaded his heart, festering for decades, and now that Xiao Yan had provoked it, the searing pain was almost unbearable. Senior, this method only treats the symptoms, not the root cause. If you want to completely eliminate the poison, you must eradicate the source of the toxins in your body, Xiao Yan said, preparing to act. However, as he noticed Yue's intense pain, he hesitated. The power of the fire spirit's flames was extraordinary. Even with his careful control, once the flames entered Yue's body, a single misstep could easily reduce this powerful man to ashes. Ha ha ha. It's been so long since I felt this alive. Go ahead, I trust you. At that moment, Yue's heart, dormant for countless years, suddenly erupted with a brilliant pulse. He had initially thought this attempt was just a desperate act by his daughter. But who could have imagined that this young man's fire spirit flames would actually begin to shake the seemingly unshakable poison? This rekindled a spark of hope in Yue, whose face had long since taken on the pallor of death. With Yue Yu's approval, Xiao Yan employed his invisible soul power, layering the milky white flames with multiple layers of protection before launching a full-scale assault on the toxins within Yue Yu's body. The poison had likely spread throughout his entire system, and the only way to cure it was to rely on the flame's purifying power to completely expel and neutralize the source of the toxins. Only then, with the aid of certain medicinal herbs, could Yue Yu hope to fully recover. Otherwise, if the poison continued to spread unchecked, Yue Yu's life might not last another year. However, while this approach seemed straightforward, it was incredibly difficult to execute. As Xiao Yan's flames entered Yue Yu's meridians, his body reacted violently. His muscles tensed, his pupils shrank, and he appeared to be on the brink of life and death. "Hold on, senior," Xiao Yan called out, forcing himself to ignore Yue Yu's agonized expression. With his eyes closed, he expertly guided the flames toward the core of the poison. Screams of unimaginable agony filled the room. Even Yu Ru, who was watching, felt her heart clench with fear. If she hadn't trusted Xiao Yan, she might have attacked him on the spot. With a sharp crack, Xiao Yan deftly controlled the flames to extract the poison that had plagued Yue Yu for decades. Yue Yu's body convulsed violently, and suddenly, black poisonous blood spurted from the corner of his mouth. As the black blood hit the ground, it released a rare toxic mist, demonstrating just how deadly the poison had been. "Be careful," Xiao Yan shouted urgently. With a flick of Little Yi's finger, the black blood instantly turned to dust and vanished. Coughing up more poisonous blood, Yue Yu gradually began to expel all the remaining toxins. After a few breaths, when the blood he coughed up started to turn red again, the room filled with a long-lost oppressive atmosphere. "This damned poison, it's finally gone," Yue Yu exclaimed with unusual excitement, looking at Xiao Yan as if he were a priceless treasure. Even though the process had been terrifying, he had succeeded. With the poison expelled, it was only a matter of time before his strength fully returned. And it was all thanks to this young man standing before him. "Father, your illness is finally cured." Yu Ru, overwhelmed with emotion, threw herself into Yue Yu's arms, crying uncontrollably, but her voice was filled with happiness. "Ha ha ha, Yue, you're a lady of such poise, yet you're still crying? Aren't you afraid others will laugh at you?" Yue Yu was clearly in high spirits after finally being cured of his long-standing ailment. He knew very well how much his beloved daughter had worried over this matter, running around constantly in search of a cure. Fortunately, this time, her efforts had paid off. Holding his daughter as she cried for a while, Yue Yu then said, "All right, stop crying. You know your father is fine now. Xiao Yan put in just as much effort and spiritual energy as I did in this treatment. Shouldn't you be taking him to rest?" "Huh." Yu Ru finally realized that Xiao Yan was still in the room. That meant he had seen her crying in front of her father. So embarrassing, so embarrassing. Yu Ru's face turned bright red, and she wished she could find a hole to crawl into. "Let's go. I'll take you to rest." "Father, you should rest well too," she said, glaring at her father, indicating that he needed to take care of himself after just recovering from a serious illness. Then, she opened the door and led Xiao Yan out. Yu Ru herself was of marriageable age. Previously, because of her father's condition, she had been focused solely on finding someone who could cure him and hadn't had time to think about anything else. Now that her father's condition was improving, she couldn't help but consider other matters. The young man before her had not only cured her father, but was also a first-tier alchemist of the imperial grade and a 3-star Do Emperor. Such a young man made Yu Ru's heart flutter in a way that few of her peers ever had. "We're here. You can rest well in this room. I'll come to get you at mealtime." "I'll leave you to rest now," Yu Ru said as she led Xiao Yan to a spacious room. Xiao Yan watched as Yu Ru slowly exited the room. He then climbed onto the bed and fell asleep almost immediately. The past few days had been exhausting, and both his body and soul needed a good rest. The first rays of morning sunlight streamed into the room as Xiao Yan woke up and stretched lazily. He had rested well last night and was ready to go into seclusion for cultivation. He immediately stepped out of his room and headed toward the main hall. "Patriarch, spare me. I swear I didn't do it. It was all the Third Elder's orders. I'm innocent." A short man knelt before Yu in the hall, pleading for mercy. Third elder, do you have anything to say for yourself? I confess. The elder known as the third elder, faced with irrefutable evidence, chose not to argue further. He knew full well the decisive methods of the patriarch standing before him. Over the years, as my ailment worsened, my strength diminished significantly. Do you think I didn't know about the things you did behind my back? Now that my ailment has been cured, it's time to set things right in this family. As he spoke, Yu unleashed the powerful aura of a peak 5-star Do Emperor, causing everyone in the family hall to feel a trace of pressure. Take them away and deal with them according to the family rules. Yu ordered. They deserve it. You reap what you sow. The voices of agreement echoed through the council hall. Such vermin in the family were only a stain on its reputation and were better removed to make way for the capable. Xiao Yan, you're awake? Yu's previously stern expression softened instantly upon seeing Xiao Yan, and he smiled kindly. He was well aware that his daughter seemed to have special feelings for the young man before him, and as a father, he naturally wanted to support her. Patriarch, you're too kind. After what happened yesterday, I feel like I'm on the verge of a breakthrough. So, I actually came here today to ask if I could use the family's training chamber for a secluded cultivation session, Xiao Yan said, cupping his fists in respect. You're about to break through? That's wonderful news. Of course, there's no problem. Yu, clearly in a good mood from both his recovery and the cleansing of the family, laughed heartily. Breakthroughs are rare and unpredictable. Since it's come to this, we shouldn't delay. Let's go now, Xiao Yan said. Yue, what are you waiting for? Take Xiao Yan to the seclusion chamber, Yu told his absent-minded daughter. He could clearly see that since his recovery, Yuru's focus on Xiao Yan had been intense. Her eyes seemed ready to leap out of her head, revealing her feelings even if she tried to hide them. Never mind. It's natural for daughters to grow up and leave, Yu thought to himself, but he was genuinely pleased both inside and out. Walking down the secluded path, Xiao Yan observed Yuru, dressed in a delicate princess gown and looking somewhat nervous. Miss Yu, do you have something on your mind? It's not exactly a concern. I'm very happy that my father's ailment is cured, but Yuru's response was evasive. Although her father had spoken at length the previous night about how one must actively pursue love and that one wouldn't know unless they tried, Yuru couldn't help but be distracted by her thoughts about Xiao Yan. Her father had spoken highly of Xiao Yan, a young man who was a 3-star Do Emperor and an imperial-grade alchemist. Such potential in a young person was rare, even if he were to be a minor figure. But the girl accompanying Xiao Yan, the more Yuru thought about it, the more her cheeks flushed, lost in her thoughts. Xiao Yan, bewildered, watched her with confusion. We're almost there. It's just ahead. This morning, I checked on the girl you were with. It seems her soul power was exhausted, and she'll need some time to recover before waking up, Yuru said, trying to change the subject to ease the awkwardness. During your seclusion, I'll take good care of her, so you can rest assured, Yuru added as they reached the end of the path, shifting the topic away from her own feelings. In that case, I'm grateful, Miss Yu, Xiao Yan said, noticing the simple stone door ahead. Guided by Yuru, he stepped through the door, waving to her as he went inside. Hey, Xiao Yan, is that girl your wife? Just as Xiao Yan was stepping inside, Yuru gathered her courage and called out. It was no wonder Yuru asked this. From appearances, they seemed perfectly matched, and she wondered if she had lost her chance with the man she admired so much. As she watched Xiao Yan enter through the slowly closing stone door, Yuru mustered the courage to ask. She's, well, my sister, came the lazy voice from within as the door closed. Xiao Yan assumed Yuru's gratitude was simply for his treatment of her father, unaware of her deeper feelings. My sister? Yuru, who was about to give up and feeling a bit dejected, felt a flicker of emotion at Xiao Yan's response. Then she whispered to herself, I had already decided that if I could cure my father, I would marry you, even if it meant being a secondary wife. No matter what happens in the future, I'm sticking with you, Xiao Yan. You can't run away. Thank you, Xiao Yan, she said softly, moved by her own emotions, and left the path. Order everyone not to disturb the training chamber. Also, take good care of that girl, Yu instructed as he left the hall. Xiao Yan was unaware of Yuru's thoughts outside the stone door. The immediate priority was to absorb the soul essence stored in his soul sea. He proceeded to enter the stone door's passage. The spacious training room before him had some stone steps and a training platform. It was evident that the room was regularly cleaned by servants, giving it a tidy appearance. Xiao Yan carefully inspected the stone chamber, then set up a doqi seal at the stone door before sitting down cross-legged. It was no surprise that Xiao Yan was so cautious. Although he had healed the Yue family's head, it was wise to thoroughly check the seclusion room. Unexpected accidents during seclusion were something Xiao Yan, having traveled the Doqi continent for years, had learned to avoid. Ancestor, is everything all right now? Xiao Yan finished his preparations and gently spoke as he stroked the ring on his finger. Well done. One must always be wary. The Golden Dragon King emerged from the ring and stood before Xiao Yan. All right, then let's begin. First, release the soul essence you've collected in your soul sea. Absorb and refine it before learning Do techniques. It will be much more effective, the Golden Dragon King instructed, handing Xiao Yan 2 scrolls. Xiao Yan nodded in agreement. He sat cross-legged, mobilizing his entire soul power. Pure white light continuously emanated from Xiao Yan's forehead, gathering in front of him. Although this soul essence had been stored in his soul sea, releasing it was still somewhat strenuous. Heaven and earth's spiritual treasures, those who are destined shall obtain them. It seems you are indeed compatible with this soul essence. The Golden Dragon King observed the growing soul light before Xiao Yan, expressing his satisfaction. Once the light was fully gathered, Xiao Yan gazed at the soul light cluster before him, took a deep breath, and extended his hand to touch it. As he made contact, Xiao Yan could feel the vast power of the soul essence within, its pure energy warming his soul. Use the Yihua to refine it. The Golden Dragon King's voice echoed in the stone chamber. Though the soul essence was highly pure, some negative emotions might still be present, so the Golden Dragon King advised. Summoning Xiao Yi, a stream of milky white flames with terrifyingly high temperatures surrounded the soul light. The pure lotus demon fire had the miraculous ability to purify worldly filth. The refining process lasted several hours, revealing the immense magnitude of the soul power. Afterward, Xiao Yan slowly extinguished the flames, and Xiao Yi, having gained significant benefits, rested beside him. With everything prepared, Xiao Yan looked at the crystalline soul light floating before him. Although it had shrunk dozens of times from its original size, its purity was as potent as before. He sighed in relief, performed a series of skillful hand seals, and the soul power in his forehead surged out, transforming into a humanoid figure identical to Xiao Yan. This figure sat in front of the soul light, its mouth slightly open, drawing in the soul light with a suction force. As this suction force appeared, the soul light trembled slightly, and then an exceptionally pure soul essence, several times more refined than before, began to spread out, eventually wrapping around Xiao Yan's soul. It continuously flowed into him through his mouth, nose, and pores. As more and more soul essence was absorbed, the surface of Xiao Yan's soul, which had already developed a crystalline-like layer, grew larger and more solid. This process continued for 20 days. Boom, boom, boom. At that moment, the last wisp of the soul's light that hovered in the air entered Xiao Yan's mouth. In the quiet stone chamber, there were suddenly 2 Xiao Yans visible. The aura and appearance emanating from these bodies were indistinguishable. They both radiated the presence of a 3-star Do Di. Their appearances were identical, with not a hint of difference. Success. With the passing of 20 days, Xiao Yan's eyes opened to see his perfect doppelganger before him, whose strength and aura were also identical. He couldn't help but exclaim with joy. An Imperial Realm soul is divided into 4 levels: Entry Mortal Class, Comprehension Immortal Class, Transcendence Sacred Class, and Perfection. Your previous soul power should have been at the threshold of the Imperial Realm. With this absorption of soul essence, it has reached the mortal class of the Imperial Realm. The Golden Dragon King said with evident satisfaction. Don't underestimate your Imperial Mortal Class soul power. In terms of soul power alone, even a 5-star Do D would be comparable to you. And you should have felt it too. The transformation that entering the mortal class of the Imperial Realm has brought about is drastic. The Golden Dragon King looked at the delighted Xiao Yan. As you know, once you enter the Imperial Realm with your soul, you can use it to create manifestations to aid you in battle. Previously, because you had just entered the Imperial Realm and hadn't stabilized it yet, your current state is different. Now, as a mortal class practitioner, you have a manifestation that is on par with your own strength. This manifestation is a condensation of your soul power. Its strength will increase with yours, but remember, this manifestation is still a result of your soul power. If it suffers an injury that is too severe or incurable, it will affect you as well, and the feedback will be exponentially worse. The Golden Dragon King said sternly. Before his master could say more, Xiao Yan had already guessed some of it. Hearing his master's explanation, Xiao Yan considered that the soul power attacks and this manifestation would be crucial weapons. Oh, take a closer look at your own aura. The Golden Dragon King said, clearly surprised. Huh. Xiao Yan was puzzled. Originally, Xiao Yan should have been at the early stage of the 3-star Do D. Unexpectedly, after absorbing the most refined soul power, he had inadvertently advanced to the peak of the early 3-star Do D. He was just a step away from reaching the mid-level of the 3-star Do D. It's important to note that each advancement for a Do D expert requires immense energy. Reaching the peak of the early 3-star Do D with such pure soul essence was already quite impressive. It's not a bad thing. You've been fighting enemies above your level these days, which has been a heavy burden on you. But there are many benefits to it. Therefore, it's reasonable that absorbing this soul power has improved your strength. The Golden Dragon King said, just a bit more to reach the mid-level of the 3-star Do D? Xiao Yan carefully sensed the Do Qi within him, and it was indeed so. Progress must be made step by step. He, master. Since I've absorbed the soul power, you should now teach me the Do techniques you mentioned. Xiao Yan said with a grin, eyeing the 2 scrolls in the Golden Dragon King's hand. He knew that in this continent filled with strong Do D experts, high-rank heaven-class Do techniques were no longer sufficient. At the very least, he needed some life-saving skills. Your flame mantra is already a high-rank heaven-class technique. The supply and absorption of Do Qi are quite robust. However, to evolve the flame mantra through its 6 levels, you need to devour sacred flames. What you're currently lacking are Do techniques. The Golden Dragon King, understanding Xiao Yan's thoughts, shook the 2 scrolls in his hand. If you want to learn, then I'll teach you. The Golden Dragon King let one of the scrolls float down from the air, and Xiao Yan hurriedly reached out to catch it. Immortal Class low-rank Do techniques? Immortal Class low-rank Do techniques? Xiao Yan's surprised exclamation echoed through the stone chamber. Although the difference between Heaven Class and Immortal Class may seem minor, the actual power of Do techniques varies significantly. Heaven Class techniques harness the power of the heavens and earth for one's own use, while Immortal Class techniques transcend the forces of nature. In other words, Immortal Class Do techniques use the power of the heavens and earth in a way that prevents others from utilizing it. Do D practitioners are symbols of manipulating the heavens and earth to their greatest extent. If they cannot, it's akin to having one's limbs severed. Exactly. This is a set of Do techniques centered on the ruler, perfectly suited for your ancient ruler of heavenly flames. The Golden Dragon King said, looking at Xiao Yan. First, summon your ancient ruler of heavenly flames. To practice this set of techniques, the ruler must be refined first. The Golden Dragon King urged as Xiao Yan was about to unroll the scroll. Boom! As Xiao Yan touched the scroll, a roaring explosion echoed in his mind. His soul experienced a violent tremor, and his vision gradually became blurred. When he regained his senses, he found himself in a peculiar space. Looking around, the space was not very large and was completely devoid of any life. Xiao Yan's gaze swept around and suddenly stopped at a particular spot in the void. There, a figure stood with its hands behind its back. This figure was extremely ordinary, and Xiao Yan could barely sense any aura or Do Qi from it. It resembled an utterly ordinary person. However, this visual perception made Xiao Yan more apprehensive. How could an ordinary person be present in such a strange place? If he was not mistaken, this figure should be the true master of the seven-layered Skybreaker Ruler. This should be a memory space hidden within the Do techniques. This figure is not a real strong expert, but a fragment of memory from his past life. Gazing at the figure, Xiao Yan pondered. With his experience, he was not easily startled. After a brief contemplation, he discerned the essence of this figure. As Xiao Yan had surmised, the figure did not look towards him. Soon after Xiao Yan entered the space, a calm and steady voice began to speak within the space. The seven-layered Skybreaker Ruler, an Immortal Class low-rank Do technique, was created by merging countless Do techniques through my lifetime of effort. This ruler technique emphasizes the concept of creation, breaking the heavens with the ruler, shattering all things. Mastery of all seven layers rivals sacred class Do techniques. The ruler is divided into 7 layers, each incredibly powerful. When the 7 layers are stacked, their power rivals that of sacred class Do techniques. Hearing the voice's narrative, Xiao Yan's eyes grew increasingly bright. The 7-layered Skybreaker Ruler's combined layers can actually match sacred class Do techniques. Xiao Yan was deeply shocked. The creator of this technique was indeed a true expert. The original Heaven class Do techniques were already extraordinary. To uncover my hidden secrets is a matter of fate. Since you've acquired the Fire Ruler, it must have been refined by the Fire Spirit essence. Remember, the 7-layered Skybreaker Ruler must be used with the refined Ancient Ruler of Heavenly Flames. Only then can it be successfully activated, otherwise, you will face backlash. Upon hearing this, Xiao Yan was taken aback and then thoughtful. It turned out that the strange substances surrounding the Ancient Ruler of Heavenly Flames earlier were the Fire Spirit essence refining the ruler. It's no wonder it's an Immortal Class Do technique. It requires such a process to obtain the complete technique inheritance. On the surface of the lake, the Golden Dragon King calmly raised the Ancient Ruler of Heavenly Flames in his hand. On the surface of the ruler, the previously peculiar patterns now emitted a fiery red glow. As the ruler moved through the air, the surrounding space became somewhat illusory and blurred. Grasping the now sunset-red ruler tightly, the mysterious figure uttered a low, murmuring chant. The figure suddenly moved. With a step in the void, a residual shadow appeared under the setting sun, creating a breathtaking display. Staring in shock at the afterimage in the void, Xiao Yan was speechless for a moment. He hadn't expected the mysterious figure's speed to be so terrifying. As the afterimage gradually faded, the mysterious figure appeared, as if teleporting, beneath the massive waterfall that spanned more than 10 yards. Compared to the towering waterfall, the figure seemed as insignificant as an ant on a painting, almost unnoticeable. Yet, this tiny figure now exuded an aura of power even more fearsome than the waterfall itself. The immense wind pressure created by the waterfall's descent did nothing to disturb the seemingly frail and old body. Suddenly halting in midair, the figure pushed off with a foot, spinning 180 degrees. The light from the black ruler in the figure's hand grew more intense. Eventually, the brilliance of the light forced Xiao Yan to squint his eyes. Immortal Class Do technique. 7-layered Skybreaker Ruler. A thunderous explosion erupted, followed by a surge of scorching heat that almost filled the entire space. Boom! On the vast surface of the space, countless water columns shot up into the sky, creating a spectacular scene. Among the soaring water columns, a massive red beam suddenly flashed. Wherever the red beam passed, the water columns instantly vanished, replaced by swirling mist. Boom! The red beam, like a shooting star, streaked across the lake surface, creating a towering wave nearly 10 meters high before crashing heavily onto the cascading waterfall. Boom, boom, boom. The immense thunderous sounds echoed through the valley, causing countless rocks to tumble from the cliff walls. Covering his ears with his hands, Xiao Yan gaped at the aftermath of the attack. After a moment, he swallowed hard and turned his gaze toward the waterfall. However, the lingering mist completely obscured his view. A strong wind swept across the lake surface, rapidly dissipating the mist in the valley. The colossal waterfall finally began to reveal its true form. With widened eyes, Xiao Yan stared at the exposed waterfall, remaining stunned for a moment. He then slowly closed his eyes and took a deep breath, feeling a wave of dizziness. At this point, the massive flow of the waterfall had been completely severed. On the large rock behind the waterfall, a gaping chasm, over 10 yards long and 3 to 4 yards wide, was glaringly visible. On the edges of the chasm, countless tiny cracks spread across the rock wall, resembling climbing vines. After halting for more than 20 seconds, the waterfall resumed its slow descent, and the enormous scar on the rock gradually became concealed. Watching the black circle expanding in his vision, Xiao Yan took a deep breath, though he showed no sign of panic. He instead bowed respectfully to the figure within the dark circle. This is the simple ruler technique. Remember my name, sevenfold wandering immortal. The calm voice resonated like a thunderclap in Xiao Yan's mind, and the figure within the dark circle grew increasingly faint before finally vanishing into nothingness. The final image left by a great master dissipated in this manner. Xiao Yan nodded silently, letting the black circle's impact tear through his body. How do you feel? The Golden Dragon King asked, observing Xiao Yan emerge from the strange state. He knew Xiao Yan had entered an alternate space and hadn't disturbed him, as it was part of the technique inheritance. Sevenfold wandering immortal. Master, this ruler technique is indeed powerful. Xiao Yan, emerging from the strange state, appeared somewhat dazed. Clearly, the method for practicing the 7-layered Skybreaker Ruler had been deeply imprinted in his mind. And it suits you very well. The Golden Dragon King said with a smile. Your ancient ruler of heavenly flames is already the hardest ruler in the world. It has been refined by the fire spirit essence for millennia, making it as hard as iron and infused with the unique fire power of the heavenly flames. In the future, when you wield the 7-layered Skybreaker Ruler, its enhancement will be even greater. The Golden Dragon King continued with a smile. Master's words are indeed true. In that case, there's no time to lose. Let's start practicing the first layer right away. Xiao Yan was also amazed by the power of this ruler technique. 7-layered Skybreaker Ruler, first layer, 3 steps wandering ruler. Step 1, advance. Step 2, retreat. Step 3, attack. You can advance or retreat as needed. The method for cultivating the technique echoed in Xiao Yan's mind. The ancient ruler of heavenly flames in Xiao Yan's hand slowly materialized, appearing extraordinarily heavy after the recent refinement. Although this weight was insignificant to Xiao Yan, the ruler had indeed become heavier. Moreover, he could feel that the ruler seemed to suppress his Do Qi after the special refinement by the 7-fold wandering immortal. Currently, Xiao Yan was at the late stage of a 3-star Do Emperor, but the aura of the ancient ruler of heavenly flames on his back had been compressed to that of a 1-star Do Emperor. However, Xiao Yan was not concerned. Suppressing his own power could be beneficial, as it was wise to keep some abilities in reserve. This reminded Xiao Yan of the mystical heavy ruler from the Do Qi continent, which seemed to have a similar effect. After a brief contemplation, Xiao Yan did not hesitate. He gripped the ancient ruler of heavenly flames with both hands, preparing to exert force and begin his training. 7-layered Skybreaker Ruler emphasizes speed, precision, and ferocity. Strike quickly, approach your target rapidly, attack with intensity, and aim precisely at the vital points. The Golden Dragon King advised slowly from the side. Hearing this, Xiao Yan sat cross-legged and carefully absorbed the insights into the first layer of the 7-layered Skybreaker Ruler. According to the 7-fold Wandering Immortal's insights, the first layer of the ruler technique required synchronization between the ruler and its user to unleash its full power. How can I make it resonate with me? Xiao Yan mused, feeling a warm temperature emanating from the ancient ruler of heavenly flames as he touched it. Ancient ruler of heavenly flames, Xiao Yan murmured. He suddenly closed his eyes and focused, channeling all his fire attribute Do Qi into the ancient ruler of heavenly flames. As the vast amount of fire attribute Do Qi gathered in the ruler, it began to emit a buzzing sound, seemingly greeting Xiao Yan with joy. I did it. Xiao Yan initially wondered how to induce resonance with the ancient ruler of heavenly flames. However, he realized that since the ruler was a product of the heavenly flames, it would have a strong affinity for the fire. Surprised by his success, Xiao Yan smiled with satisfaction. Feeling the buzzing sound from the ruler in his hand, Xiao Yan stood up, gripping the ancient ruler of heavenly flames tightly. His vast dou-qi enveloped the ruler, and the surface of the ruler was surrounded by colorful flames. The stone chamber fell into an unusual silence, as if even the energy of the world had come to a standstill. Xiao Yan stood silently in the stone chamber, like a statue, as the ancient ruler of heavenly flames continued to exude a tremendous aura. 7-layered Skybreaker Ruler. First layer. 3 steps Wandering Ruler. Xiao Yan's figure moved as if teleporting. For the first step, he advanced, the ruler sweeping horizontally. For the second step, he moved again, the ruler sweeping vertically. For the third step, he moved once more, the ruler emitting a vast and overwhelming aura. The space in the stone chamber seemed to tear slightly. With each of Xiao Yan's 3 steps and the ruler's sweep, the entire stone chamber felt as if it had frozen. An aura of desolation, as if coming from the abyss, swept out from where the ruler struck, like a hurricane. 3 steps. Each movement in the ruler's path carried immense destructive energy, shattering the space. Xiao Yan had deliberately suppressed his power. Otherwise, the stone chamber might not have been able to withstand such immense destruction. This Immortal Class Do technique was indeed terrifying.